Whoa, whoa, shaky camera. Whoa, relax. Okay, what's up, boys? I just made another video. I didn't really like it, so I don't think I'm gonna post it. But this one I'm gonna talk about the ups and downs of being too agreeable, right? So you have some people out there that are just super agreeable and they almost never say no. And sometimes it's good to be agreeable, and a lot of times it's not good to be agreeable, right? We're gonna touch on that. We're gonna talk about that kind of stuff today. So let's dive into it, right? Being agreeable is not necessarily a bad thing. In terms of like there are places where being agreeable works, especially when you have like your long-term mindset. You have things that you want to achieve and accomplish on a long-term scale set in your mind. Like in the workplace, being agreeable can be the smarter thing to do. It's like choosing your battles. You always want to choose your battles, choose the battles that are worth it for you. If you know you're going to be with this company, if you're going to be pursuing your career for the next like 5, 10 years, then at times it can be more advantageous to be agreeable to some people or in certain situations, because you know that down the line you may need those people for something, and then after that it's like fuck them, I don't really care, right? So being agreeable is good in those senses, but like just living your everyday life, like you go out to the bar, you go out with friends, you don't have to agree with everything they say. Like sometimes it's good to bring a little bit of friction, a little bit of tension into your everyday conversation. Sometimes it's good to shake it up. If you're always agreeable, you're always the person that agrees and is yes, 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 then you kind of become like a yes man. You don't want to be a yes man. It's one thing when you're at work and you're agreeing and you're just choosing not to argue with people, because one, arguing or disagreeing at work is not worth it because you get paid to work, right? Most people don't want to be at their jobs, right? They have to be at their jobs, right? So why when you're working would you choose to argue with someone and expend even more energy at a place you don't even want to expend any energy, right? It's counterintuitive. If I'm at work and somebody says something and I don't really care, because at the end of the day it's the company's money, it's the company's whatever. Like your opinion is like irrelevant because I frankly don't care. You can do whatever the fuck you want, right? So it's not really advantageous to argue with people at work unless you're in a position like management or some shit like that, where your decisions ultimately affect the company or whatever. And if you don't make the right decisions, you get booted out, blah blah blah. Then it's kind of a different situation. But for the average person who just works a salary, sorry, works a wage, like you don't really you have the freedom to just agree with people even if you don't agree with them, simply because you don't really give a fuck. Like you're not going to gain anything from proving yourself right, so you might as well just agree and get them to shut the fuck up. The whole idea of getting them to agree is so that they ultimately shut the fuck up and you don't have to hear them talk anymore, right? But when you're out with your friends, when you're out with people who you choose to be around, then it's okay to be disagreeable, because those people are around you because they like you for your personality and for who you are, right? So they don't want you to agree with them all the time. In fact, sometimes I say shit to my friends just to purposefully get them to disagree with me. When things get boring or whatever. Sometimes it's good to be disagreeable. In fact, sometimes it's great. It's more helpful than being agreeable, right? So you always want to choose your battles. You always want to weigh whether it's worth it to disagree with someone, whether it's better to just let them go and do whatever. Because in many cases, like you disagree with someone, but you agree. You were In many cases where you agree with someone, but you know better, you don't often say anything, and they just end up learning the hard way, right? Which is what you knew was gonna happen anyways, right? But if you had said something to them, right, then possibly they wouldn't have learned the hard way, which means they wouldn't have made a mistake. So in a way, you being agreeable kind of teaches people a lesson in a funny roundabout way, right? Yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but pretty much you want to be agreeable in certain circumstances, right? But you don't ever want to be too agreeable to the point where people cross your boundaries or your whatever. You know, everybody has their own boundaries, and you don't want anybody to really cross your boundaries or think like a sand that you draw in the line, pretty much, right? Being being agreeable at the end of the day stems from, I want to just say, in this society, a lack of cash flow or a lack of security. That's a better way to put it. A lack of security. Like, you're only agreeable to the point where you're ready to tell your boss or tell anybody to just fuck off, right? Like, if you have like investments sitting in the bank, you know, you got properties, you got like, you know, you got all these things, then you don't really need to listen to what anybody has to say, and you don't need to be agreeable at all, because you don't really need to take this shit, right? But the less financially secure you are, the less confident you are, the less whatever you are, you know, the less you believe in yourself, is the more you have to agree with what other people say, because you don't really, it's not that you don't know any better, but you don't have any confidence in yourself. Actually, in fact, people can like just smell that, right? People can just look at you and tell, right? And those people will start to pick on you more because they know you're just like that, right? They won't see people who they know they can't pick on, and they won't go after them, right? So at the end of the day, it's more than being agreeable or not. It's also about working on yourself and working on becoming a better version of yourself. So to a point where you can choose not to be agreeable even at your workplace, because you don't have to be at your workplace if you didn't want to be there, right? Which is why it's best to work, not like, it's working a 9 to 5 is mandatory for most people, but it's best to find a job or work in a career that you enjoy doing what you do, right? That way, you know, like, you have money saved up, you have stability, you have some form of sustenance in your life, and you're also doing something that you really enjoy, right? If you're enjoying something, you'll be good at it. If you're good at it, then people will oftentimes recommend you. If people recommend you often, then if you don't need to work at one place, you can go anywhere and you'll find a job, right? Or you'll be able to pursue your passion, and that will get you paid anyways, right? So yeah, don't be too agreeable, right? There are certain circumstances where you just have to bide your time and just say yes, just to get people to really just shut the fuck up. But it's never forever, right? So if you enjoyed this video, I'm gonna wrap it up. You enjoyed this video? Let me know what you guys think. Like and follow so the algorithm can, you know, show you more videos like this, to feed your brain and feed your knowledge. Yeah, that's it. Peace out.